After the deliverance from Egypt and the covenant sealed at Sinai, the people of Israel stood trembling before a mountain wrapped in fire. There, Yahweh gave them more than laws. He gave them a way to dwell with him. Instructions were given for offerings, purity, priesthood, and the sacred tent where glory would descend. But even in the presence of the holy, the people faltered. 2 sons of Aaron offered strange fire and were consumed. The nation was taught, painfully, that to dwell with the living Elohim is no small thing. Tribe by tribe, law by law, the people were shaped into a holy community. Their camp was ordered. Their priests were consecrated. Their sins were atoned for. And at the center of it all, Yahweh himself, dwelling in the tabernacle, in the midst of a people learning to walk in his ways. Now, the cloud will lift, the trumpet will sound, and what was once still will begin to move. In the wilderness of Sinai, beneath the pale light of the second new moon since their exodus from Mitzrayim, the voice of Yahweh stirred within the tent of appointment. There, surrounded by the stillness of sacred space, he spoke to Moses, saying, "Take the sum of the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, name by name, clan by clan, house by house. Count every male from 20 years and upward, all who go forth with the militia host." So Moses and Aaron received the command of Elohim and prepared to carry it out. Yet they would not stand alone in this task. 1 man from each tribe was appointed to assist them, a chieftain, a head among his father's house, chosen and named by Yahweh. From Reuben, Elizur son of Shadur. From Simeon, Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nahshon son of Amminadab. From Issachar, Nethanel son of Zuar. From Zebulun, Eliab son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph came Elishama son of Ammihud for Ephraim, and Gamaliel son of Pedazur for Manasseh. For Benjamin, Abidan son of Gideoni. For Dan, Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai. For Asher, Pagiel son of Okran. For Gad, Eliasaph son of Roel. And for Naphtali, Ahira son of Enan. These were the ones called by name, princes of the tribes, appointed to stand with Moses and Aaron in the sacred work of mustering the nation. On the first day of the 2nd month, all the congregation gathered according to their tribes. Scrolls were opened, names recorded. From 20 years old and upward, every man who could bear arms and march in the host of Yahweh was presented. Family by family, name by name, they came forward in obedience to the word of Elohim. Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, stood with 46,500. Simeon followed with 59,300. From Gad came 45,650. The tribe of Judah, strong and numerous, stood with 74,600. Issachar brought 54,400. Zebulun, 57,400. From the house of Joseph, Ephraim brought 40,500, and Manasseh, 32,200. Benjamin, the son of Jacob's right hand, brought 35,400. Dan offered 62,700. Asher, 41,500, and Naphtali, 53,400. Thus were the sons of Israel counted, each man by his lineage, each tribe by its strength. Moses and Aaron, together with the 12 tribal leaders, recorded them all under the eye of heaven. The total of the sons of Israel who could go forth to war was 603,550. But the sons of Levi were not numbered among them. Yahweh had spoken to Moses, saying, "Do not count the tribe of Levi, nor include them in the total of Israel. They are appointed for another purpose." To the Levites was entrusted the care of the tabernacle of the testimony, the dwelling place of Yahweh, in the midst of his people. They were to carry its veils and its vessels, its poles and its ark. They were to minister to it, guard it, and encamp around it. When the cloud lifted, they would take it down. When it rested, they would set it up. And if any outsider came near to the sacred dwelling, he was to be put to death. The rest of Israel was to encamp by their tribes, each under his banner, each with his company and standard. But the Levites would form a circle around the sanctuary, a living perimeter of holiness, that wrath might not fall upon the congregation. They were charged to keep watch over the tabernacle and protect the dwelling of Yahweh Elohim. And the sons of Israel did all that Yahweh had commanded Moses. As they were instructed, so they did. In the silence of the wilderness, where the sands whispered under the breath of morning, Yahweh spoke again to Moses and Aaron. From within the tent of appointment, his command came with clarity and purpose. The sons of Israel were not to wander as scattered tribes, but to encamp in holy order, each beneath their standard, each by the banner of their father's house. Around the dwelling place of Elohim, they would array themselves, not in chaos, but in sacred symmetry, as a nation formed by divine design. To the east, where the sun rises and light first touches the earth, the standard of Judah was raised. Beneath it stood Nahshon son of Amminadab, leading 74,600 warriors. Beside Judah, the tribe of Issachar encamped, led by Nethanel son of Zuar, with 54,400. Then came Zebulun, whose prince was Eliab son of Helon, leading 57,400. Altogether, the camp of Judah, eastward toward the dawn, numbered 186,400. They would be the first to break camp, the vanguard of the journey. Southward, the standard of Reuben was set. Elizur son of Shedur led 46,500. Next came Simeon, under Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai, with 59,300. Then Gad, led by Eliasaph son of Reuel, with 45,650. The southern camp, under the banner of Reuben, counted 151,450. They would journey second, following the camp of Judah. In the heart of the procession, the Levites would carry the tent of appointment, surrounded by holiness. Just as they encamped around the tabernacle, so would they move, with reverence, with purpose, shielding the sanctuary at the center of Israel's ranks. To the west, the standard of Ephraim rose beneath the evening skies. Elishama son of Ammihud led 40,500. At his side, the tribe of Manasseh, under Gamaliel son of Pedazur, brought 32,200. Then came Benjamin, led by Abidan son of Gideoni, with 35,400. The camp of Ephraim, bearing the banner of Joseph's house, numbered 108,100. They would break camp third, forming the rear guard of the sanctuary. To the north, beneath darker skies, stood the standard of Dan. Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai commanded 62,700. To his side encamped Asher, under Pagiel son of Okran, with 41,500. Then Naphtali, with Ahira son of Enan, brought 53,400. The northern camp, led by Dan, totaled 157,600. They would journey last, watching the rear of the nation as it moved through wilderness and dust. Thus the tribes were set in formation, east, south, west, and north, all encamped at a distance around the tabernacle of Yahweh. Each tribe knew its place, each family its banner. At the center stood the Levites, bearing the holy burden, guarding the presence that dwelled between the cherubim. Altogether, the number of those mustered by their militia hosts, apart from the Levites, was 603,550. The Levites were not counted among the camps, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses, for their inheritance was not war, but worship. And so the sons of Israel did according to all that Yahweh had commanded Moses. They encamped beneath their standards, tribe by tribe, family by family. And when the time came to journey, they moved in order, each in their place, under the banners of their fathers' houses. In the sacred hush of Sinai's heights, on the day Yahweh spoke with Moses upon the mountain, the genealogies of Aaron and Moses were recorded, names etched into the unfolding tapestry of Israel's priesthood. From Aaron came 4 sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These were the anointed priests, consecrated by oil and ordinance to serve at the altar. Yet fire, foreign and unbidden, rose from the hands of Nadab and Abihu, and they perished before Yahweh in the wilderness. Their line ended with silence, and Eleazar and Ithamar remained, ministering in the presence of their father. Then Yahweh spoke again to Moses, his word steady and full of intent. Bring near the tribe of Levi, and stand them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. The sons of Levi were to be ministers, not warriors, but guardians of the sacred. They were to bear the charge of the tabernacle, to care for its holy vessels, and to stand watch on behalf of the congregation, so that none would approach unlawfully. Yahweh declared, "They are mine, given to me from among the sons of Israel. In place of every firstborn I take the Levites, for every firstborn male is mine. On the day I struck the firstborn in Egypt, I consecrated them to myself, both man and beast. They are mine. I am Yahweh." By divine command, Moses began the numbering of Levi, from 1 month old and upward. The tribe was divided by their fathers' houses into 3, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. From Gershon came Libni and Shimei. Their families numbered 7,500, and they encamped westward, behind the tabernacle. Eliasaph son of Lael led them, and their charge was the tent itself, the coverings, the entrance curtain, the court hangings, and its cords. From Kohath came Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Their number was 8,600, and they encamped to the south. Elizaphan son of Uzziel was their prince. To them was entrusted the care of the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, and the vessels of ministry, the furnishings of the holy place. They bore what could not be touched by others. Over them all, Eleazar son of Aaron the priest was appointed, to supervise those who kept the charge of the sanctuary. The tribe of Merari descended from Mali and Mushi. Their families were 6,200 strong, and they encamped northward. Zuriel son of Abihail was their prince. Their task was the framework of the tabernacle, the boards, bars, pillars, sockets, and all its structure and implements, including the pillars of the court and their cords. Before the tabernacle, to the east, Moses, Aaron, and his sons encamped, facing the sunrise. They were set to guard the sanctuary on behalf of all Israel. No outsider was to come near. To do so was to invite death, for the presence of Yahweh was not to be approached lightly. In all, the males of Levi, 1 month and older, numbered 22,000. Then Yahweh spoke again, saying, "Now number every firstborn male among the sons of Israel, from 1 month old and upward." And Moses did so, finding 22,273 firstborns. Yahweh declared, "Take the Levites for me in place of the firstborn, and their livestock in place of the firstborn beasts. The Levites are mine." Yet 273 firstborns remained unredeemed by Levite lives. For these, Yahweh commanded a ransom, 5 shekels per head, by the shekel of the sanctuary, 20 gerahs to the shekel. Moses collected the silver, 1,365 shekels in all, and gave it to Aaron and his sons as Yahweh had commanded. Thus the Levites were set apart, a living substitution, consecrated in the shadow of Sinai, to serve the dwelling place of the Most High. In the wilderness, where the holy ground waited beneath the shadow of the cloud, Yahweh once more spoke to Moses and to Aaron, calling them to number the sons of Kohath, a branch of Levi's sacred lineage. From 30 years old to 50, all who would serve in the tent of appointment were to be counted, not for war, but for the burden of holiness. This was not a charge of conquest, but of reverence, for their task was to carry the most sacred things, the Holy of Holies. When the camp set out on its journey, Aaron and his sons alone were to enter first. They would cover the Ark of the Testimony with the veil, conceal it beneath a cover of azure hide, then spread over it a cloth wholly of blue, placing its poles carefully in place. Over the table of the presence, they would spread a blue cloth, setting upon it the dishes, the spoons, the bowls for offerings, and the chalices for libations. The bread of the presence would remain in place, even as the camp moved. Then a crimson cloth would be spread, and over it azure hide, with its poles fixed for bearing. The lampstand of the luminary, with its lamps and vessels, its oil jars and snuffers, would be wrapped in blue and hidden within azure hide, carried upon a bar for transport. The golden altar, too, would be wrapped and prepared in sacred covering. Every vessel of ministry, every instrument of worship would be enclosed and laid upon the Kohathites' shoulders, but not by their hands. For Aaron's sons alone were to wrap and prepare these things. The Kohathites would carry them, but not touch them, lest they die. The charge was grave and guarded. These were the burdens of the sons of Kohath, under the watch of Eleazar son of Aaron the priest, who held charge over the oil of the lamp, the sacred incense, the grain offering, and the anointing oil. The whole tabernacle and all within it stood under his oversight. Yahweh warned Moses and Aaron, "Do not let the tribe of the Kohathites be cut off from among the Levites. Assign each man to his duty and burden, that they may live and not die when they come near the holy things." They were not to look upon the sacred vessels, even as they were covered, lest the holiness that sanctifies should also consume. Then Yahweh instructed Moses to number the sons of Gershon, also from 30 to 50 years old, those called to serve. Their burden was the cloth of the tabernacle, the coverings and veils, the curtains at the entrance, the hangings of the courtyard, the gate, and the cords that bound it all together. Under the command of Ithamar son of Aaron, the Gershonites would carry what shielded and enclosed the dwelling of Elohim. All their service, all their movement, was to be under Aaron's direction. Nothing was to be done by instinct. Every step was obedience. The sons of Merari were also numbered, by family and house. Their service too began at 30 and ended at 50. Their charge was the frame, the bones of the sanctuary, the boards, the bars, the pillars and sockets, the stakes and cords, and every piece of structure that upheld the dwelling of Yahweh. Each item was assigned by name, and the weight of it fell upon the shoulders of men consecrated not by might, but by calling. Ithamar oversaw them as well, for every load and task. So Moses and Aaron, together with the leaders of the congregation, gathered the sons of Levi by their clans. The Kohathites numbered at 2,750, the Gershonites 2,630, the Merarites 3,200. Every man from 30 to 50, each ready to serve and to carry, each chosen by Yahweh himself. Altogether, those Levites appointed for service in the tent of appointment numbered 8,580. Every task, every burden was given by name and measured by purpose. Not one was chosen at random, not one burden given without meaning. On the word of Yahweh, Moses numbered them all, and each man stood where he was called, each to his sacred duty, each to his weight of holiness. In the wilderness, beneath the eye of the cloud, and in the shadow of the tabernacle, Yahweh spoke again to Moses, his voice commanding not the arrangement of banners, nor the weight of vessels, but the cleansing of the camp itself. "Send away," he said, "every man and woman who is leprous, every soul with an unclean discharge, and all who have been defiled by death. Male or female, they must go outside the camp, for I dwell in the midst of Israel, and my presence must not be defiled." So the sons of Israel obeyed. They carried the afflicted beyond the boundary of holiness, outside the camp where Yahweh was tabernacling. The camp was not theirs alone. It was a sanctuary, and it was to be kept pure. Then Yahweh gave instruction concerning guilt and restoration. "If a man or woman commits any sin common among humankind, but in doing so offends against me," he said, "and the guilty soul becomes aware of their trespass, they must confess their sin. Full restitution must be made to the one wronged, with a fifth added to its value. And if the offended had no kinsman to receive the repayment, then the restoration was to be given to Yahweh, presented to the priest, along with a ram for atonement. Every heave offering, every sacred gift brought near belonged to the priest, for the priest bore the burden of intercession." Then Yahweh spoke again, and the air grew solemn, heavy with the weight of hidden things. He gave the law of jealousy, when trust is wounded and suspicion cannot be settled by sight. "If a man suspects his wife has strayed," Yahweh said, "whether she has defiled herself or not, let him bring her to the priest. The man was to bring with her an offering of barley meal, an offering of jealousy, without oil, without frankincense, for it was not to rise in sweetness, but to serve as a memorial of iniquity. The priest would then stand the woman before Yahweh and unbind her hair, exposing her in solemn witness. Into her hands he would place the grain of accusation, and in his own hand would be the waters of bitterness that bring a curse. These were no ordinary waters, mixed with dust from the floor of the sanctuary, sanctified yet humbling. They would become the vessel of divine judgment. The priest would pronounce the oath, "If no man has lain with you, if you have remained faithful under your husband's covering, then these waters shall not harm you. But if you have defiled yourself, if another man has entered where he should not, then may Yahweh make you a sign and a curse among your people. May your belly swell and your thigh wither." The woman was to respond with trembling lips, "Amen, Amen." The priest would write the curse upon a scroll, then wash the words into the cup. The woman would drink the waters of bitterness, waters that, if she were guilty, would become bitterness within her. Her body would betray the hidden truth. She would become a curse among her people. But if she had not defiled herself, she would be cleared of guilt and would yet bear seed. This was the law of jealousy, a mirror held to unseen wrongs, a reckoning before Yahweh when no witness could testify. The man would be held innocent of sin, and the woman, if guilty, would bear the weight of her own iniquity. So it was that holiness was guarded not only in tents and tabernacle, but in the hidden spaces of the heart. Injustice was not to fester in silence. Trust, once broken or doubted, was brought before Yahweh, who sees all things, and through this bitter ritual, righteousness would be upheld in the midst of the camp where Yahweh dwelled. In the stillness between the sacred ordinances and the stirring of the camp, Yahweh spoke to Moses once more, setting apart a path of extraordinary devotion. This was no command for all, but an invitation, an offering of oneself, wholly and visibly, to Yahweh. It was the Nazirite vow, a sacred separation, a season of holiness undertaken not by tribe or inheritance, but by the heart of any man or woman who would consecrate their life unto the Most High. If a soul sets themselves apart, Yahweh said, let them sequester from wine and strong drink. They shall not touch vinegar of wine, nor even the juice of grapes, fresh or dried. From seed to skin, from feast to cup, the fruit of the vine shall not pass their lips. And not only in what they drank, but in how they appeared would their vow be made visible. No razor would pass over the head. The locks would grow long, untamed, a living sign upon their crown, because the consecration to Elohim rested visibly there. For the days of this separation, they would not approach death. Even should a mother or father, a brother or sister fall into silence, the Nazirite would not draw near to mourn. For the vow marked them as belonging not to grief nor to kin, but to Yahweh alone. Yet if death came suddenly, defiling the vow unawares, the head must be shaved, the hair cut away in cleansing on the 7th day. On the 8th, 2 turtle doves or pigeons were to be brought before the priest, one for sin, one for assent. A guilt offering followed, and the previous days of consecration were lost, erased by defilement. But the vow could begin anew. And when the days of devotion reached their fullness, the Nazirite would come to the entrance of the tent of appointment, bringing offerings of gratitude and peace, a year-old lamb for assent, a ewe for sin, and a ram for peace. With them came unleavened bread, perforated cakes mingled with oil, wafers anointed, with libations and sacred portions. There, in view of the altar, the Nazirite would shave the long-grown hair, placing it in the fire beneath the peace offering. The priest would take the cooked shank of the ram, a cake, and a wafer, and lay them into the hands of the one who had borne the vow. These would be waved before Yahweh, a portion holy to the priest, a sign of fulfillment. And then, only then, the Nazirite might drink wine again. Yet what they had offered was more than a ritual. It was a season of life marked by sacred restraint and visible holiness. This is the law of the Nazirite, said Yahweh, according to their vow and the measure of their offering. Whether they bring more or less, as their hand is able, their devotion must follow this order. And when the laws had been given, Yahweh turned again to Moses and gave him words of blessing, words not to be spoken by prophets, nor kings, but by the priests alone. He said, "Speak to Aaron and his sons, and say to them, Thus shall you bless the sons of Israel." And so the blessing was born, spoken with lifted hands and shining faces. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift his face toward you and grant you peace. In this way, they would place the name of Yahweh upon the people, and Yahweh himself, the one who dwells in fire and mercy, would bless them. On the day when Moses finished setting up the tabernacle, he anointed it with sacred oil and made it holy, together with all its furnishings. The altar and every vessel belonging to it, he anointed and consecrated, until the whole dwelling shone with the touch of sanctity. Then the princes of Israel, the heads of their fathers' houses, leaders of the 12 tribes who had stood over the mustering of the people, came forward with their offerings. They brought 6 covered wagons and 12 oxen, a wagon for every pair of princes and an ox for each one. These they presented before the tabernacle as an approach gift to Yahweh. Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, "Take them from the princes, that they may be used for the service of the tent of appointment. Give them to the Levites, each according to his assigned work." So Moses received the wagons and oxen and distributed them, 2 wagons and 4 oxen to the sons of Gershon according to their tasks, and 4 wagons with 8 oxen to the sons of Merari, for their heavier burden under the oversight of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. But to the sons of Kohath he gave none, for the service of the holy things was laid upon them. The most sacred objects they carried upon their shoulders. Then the princes came near once more with offerings for the dedication of the altar on the very day it was anointed. Yahweh commanded Moses that each prince should bring his offering on a separate day, one prince for each day in turn. On the first day, Nahshon son of Amminadab of the tribe of Judah approached. His offering was 1 silver dish weighing 130 shekels, and 1 silver bowl weighing 70 shekels, both according to the shekel of the sanctuary, each filled with fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. With them, he brought 1 golden spoon of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 young bull, 1 ram, and 1-year-old male lamb for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, and 5 one-year-old male lambs. This was the offering of Nahshon son of Amminadab. On the second day, Nethanel son of Zuar, prince of Issachar, brought his offering. It matched in every detail the gift of the day before, with its silver vessels filled with flour and oil, its golden spoon of incense, its animals for a scent, sin, and peace offerings. This was the offering of Nethanel son of Zuar. On the third day, Eliab son of Helon, prince of Zebulun, brought near his offering, the same silver dish and bowl, the same incense-filled golden spoon, the same young bull, ram, lamb, goat, and the 5-fold peace offerings. This was the offering of Eliab son of Helon. On the fourth day, Elizur son of Shadur, prince of Reuben, presented his offering, identical in measure and devotion to those before him. This was the offering of Elizur son of Shadur. On the fifth day, Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai, prince of Simeon, brought his offering, the same silver, the same gold, the same sacrifices for a scent, sin, and peace. This was the offering of Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai. On the sixth day, Eliasaph son of Reuel, prince of Gad, approached with his offering, equal in every gift to those already presented. This was the offering of Eliasaph son of Reuel. On the seventh day, Elishama son of Ammihud, prince of Ephraim, came with his offering, every measurement and every sacrifice aligned with those before him. This was the offering of Elishama son of Ammihud. On the eighth day, Gamaliel son of Pedazur, prince of Manasseh, brought his offering, echoing the same unity of measure and devotion. This was the offering of Gamaliel son of Pedazur. On the ninth day, Abidan son of Gideoni, prince of Benjamin, brought his offering, again the same silver, the same gold, the same animals. This was the offering of Abidan son of Gideoni. On the 10th day, Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai, prince of Dan, presented his offering, every detail matching his brother's gifts. This was the offering of Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai. On the 11th day, Pagel son of Okran, prince of Asher, came with his offering, identical in all things to the others. This was the offering of Pagel son of Okran. On the 12th day, Ahira son of Enan, prince of Naphtali, brought near his offering, completing the circle of the tribes with the same silver, the same gold, the same ascent, sin, and peace offerings. This was the offering of Ahira son of Enan. Thus the dedication gift of the altar, on the day it was anointed, was brought by the princes of Israel, 12 silver dishes and 12 silver bowls, each dish weighing 130 shekels, and each bowl 70 shekels, totaling 2,400 shekels of silver by the shekel of the sanctuary. The 12 golden spoons, full of incense, each weighed 10 shekels, making 120 shekels of gold. For the burnt offerings, there were 12 bulls, 12 rams, 12-year-old lambs, and 12 male goats for sin offerings. For the peace offerings, there were 24 bulls, 60 rams, 60 he-goats, and 60-year-old lambs. This was the dedication offering of the altar after it had been anointed. And whenever Moses entered the tent of appointment to speak with him, he heard the voice of Yahweh speaking to him from above the mercy seat that rested upon the ark of the testimony, from between the two cherubim. From there, he spoke to him. Yahweh spoke to Moses and instructed him to tell Aaron, "When you set up the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light toward the face of the lampstand." Aaron did exactly as he was commanded. He arranged the lamps to shine forward on the golden lampstand, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. The lampstand itself was made of hammered gold, from its base to its blossoms, according to the design Yahweh had shown Moses. Then Yahweh spoke again to Moses, saying, "Take the Levites from among the sons of Israel and cleanse them." The cleansing process was detailed. Water of purification was to be sprinkled over them. They were to shave their entire bodies with a razor, and they were to wash their garments. Only then would they be considered clean. Next, the Levites were to take a young bull along with a grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, and a second bull for a sin offering. Moses was to bring the Levites to the tent of appointment and gather the whole congregation of Israel. When the Levites were brought before Yahweh, the sons of Israel were to lay their hands upon them. Then Aaron would present the Levites before Yahweh as a wave offering from the Israelites, so that the Levites might serve in the duties of Yahweh. The Levites were to lay their hands upon the heads of the 2 bulls, one to be offered as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering to Yahweh to make atonement for them. Afterward, Moses was to present the Levites before Aaron and his sons and wave them again before Yahweh, setting them apart. In this way, the Levites were separated from among the children of Israel and became holy Yahweh's. After their purification and consecration, they entered to perform their service at the tent of appointment, according to all that Yahweh had commanded Moses. Yahweh declared that the Levites were given wholly to him in place of all the firstborn of Israel. Every firstborn among the Israelites, whether man or beast, belonged to Yahweh. For on the day he struck down the firstborn in Egypt, he sanctified them to himself. But now he took the Levites instead of every firstborn in Israel. Yahweh gave the Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons from among the Israelites, to serve in the tent of appointment on behalf of the people. Their service was to make atonement for the children of Israel, so that no plague would strike them when they approached the sanctuary. Thus Moses, Aaron, and the entire assembly of Israel did everything concerning the Levites exactly as Yahweh had commanded Moses. The Levites purified themselves, washed their garments, and were waved before Yahweh. Then Aaron made atonement for them to cleanse them. Afterward, they came to serve at the tent of appointment under Aaron's leadership, fulfilling Yahweh's command through Moses. Yahweh also instructed Moses concerning the terms of service for the Levites. From the age of 25 years and upward, a Levite could begin his service in the tent of appointment. At the age of 50, he was to retire from active duty and no longer perform the work. However, he could still assist his fellow Levites by guarding the tent, though he was not to carry out the service itself. In this way, the Levites were to be governed in their duties and responsibilities. In the wilderness of Sinai, during the first month of the 2nd year after the people of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt, Yahweh spoke to Moses. He commanded that the sons of Israel observe the Passover at its appointed time. On the 14th day of that month, between the evenings, they were to keep it according to all its statutes and customs. Moses conveyed this instruction to the people, and so they kept the Passover on the exact day in the wilderness of Sinai, just as Yahweh had commanded. However, there were certain men among the people who had become unclean through contact with a dead body, and therefore could not prepare the Passover offering on that day. They approached Moses and Aaron, saying, "We are unclean because of a dead body. Why should we be excluded from presenting the offering of Yahweh at the appointed time with the rest of Israel?" Moses told them to wait so he could hear what instruction Yahweh would give concerning their case. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses and declared that if any man, whether in that generation or in future generations, becomes unclean by touching a corpse, or if he is on a journey far from the camp, he may still observe the Passover for Yahweh, but he must do so in the 2nd month on the 14th day, between the evenings. They were to eat the meal with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, leaving nothing of it until morning and breaking no bone of it. All the regulations of the Passover would still apply. But if a man was clean and present, and yet failed to observe the Passover, he would be cut off from his people because he did not bring Yahweh's offering at the appointed time. That man would bear his guilt. This rule also applied to the foreigner who sojourned among them. If he desired to keep the Passover to Yahweh, he was to follow the same statute and customs. There was to be one law for the native and the sojourner alike. On the day the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, was set up, a cloud covered it. From evening until morning, the appearance of fire was over the tabernacle, so it was continuously. By day, the cloud covered it, and by night, there was the appearance of fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from the tent, the people of Israel set out, and wherever the cloud settled, there they encamped. At the command of Yahweh, the people journeyed, and at his command, they encamped. As long as the cloud rested over the tabernacle, they remained where they were. Even if the cloud lingered for many days, the Israelites did not move. They stayed in place and kept Yahweh's charge. There were times when the cloud remained for only a few days, and then, Yahweh's command, they would move again. Whether it stayed from evening to morning or lifted in the morning, they set out. Whether it was day or night, if the cloud lifted, they moved. Whether the cloud remained 2 days, a month, or even longer, the Israelites stayed put and did not journey until it lifted. But when it did, they moved again. All their movements, when to encamp and when to travel, were directed by the word of Yahweh, as he spoke through Moses. The people were wholly obedient to the signs of his presence, living by the rhythm of divine instruction and movement. Yahweh spoke to Moses and instructed him to make 2 silver trumpets crafted from hammered work. These trumpets were to be used for assembling the congregation and for signaling the breaking of camp. When both trumpets were blown with a long blast, the entire congregation would gather at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If only one trumpet was blown, then only the tribal leaders, the heads of the thousands of Israel, would gather. Short blasts were to signal the departure of the camps. The first blast would signal the eastern camps to move, the second blast for the southern camps, the third for those to the west, and the fourth for the northern camps. These short blasts were used only for movement, but when the assembly was to be gathered, the priests were to blow a long blast without the short staccato notes. Only the sons of Aaron, the priests, were authorized to blow the trumpets, and this ordinance was to be a lasting statute for future generations. Yahweh also declared that if the people entered into battle in their land against an oppressor, they were to sound the trumpets, and Yahweh would remember them and deliver them from their enemies. The trumpets were also to be blown on days of rejoicing, during appointed festivals, and at the beginning of each new month, over burnt offerings and peace offerings, serving as a memorial before their God. Yahweh declared, "I am Yahweh your Elohim." It came to pass in the 2nd year, in the 2nd month, on the 20th day of the month, that the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle of the testimony. The Israelites set out from the wilderness of Sinai and the cloud came to rest in the wilderness of Paran. This marked the first journey of the Israelites by the command of Yahweh through Moses. First, the standard of the camp of Judah set out, by their militia divisions, under the leadership of Nahshon son of Amminadab. Next came the tribe of Issachar, led by Nethanel son of Zuar, followed by the tribe of Zebulun, led by Eliab son of Helon. After these, the tabernacle was dismantled, and the Gershonites and Merarites set out, carrying the tabernacle structure. Then came the standard of the camp of Reuben, under their divisions. Elizur son of Shedur led the tribe of Reuben. Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai led the tribe of Simeon, and Eliasaph son of Royal led the tribe of Gad. The Kohathites followed them, carrying the sacred objects. The tabernacle was to be set up before they arrived. Next came the standard of the camp of Ephraim, with Elishama son of Ammihud leading their militia. Following him were the tribe of Manasseh, led by Gamaliel son of Pedazur, and the tribe of Benjamin, led by Abidan son of Gideoni. Last of all was the standard of the camp of Dan, who served as the rear guard for all the camps. Dan's host was led by Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai. Pagel son of Okran led the tribe of Asher, and Ahira son of Enan led the tribe of Naphtali. This was the established marching order for the sons of Israel, by their divisions when they set out. At this time Moses said to Hobab, the son of Royal the Midianite, his father-in-law, "We are setting out for the place of which Yahweh said, 'I will give it to you.' Come with us, and we will treat you well, for Yahweh has promised good things to Israel." But Hobab replied, "I will not go. I will return to my land and to my people." Moses pleaded with him, "Please do not leave us. You know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you can be eyes for us. And if you come with us, the good that Yahweh will do for us, we will also do for you." So they journeyed from the mountain of Yahweh for 3 days. The ark of the covenant of Yahweh went before them during those 3 days, seeking a resting place for the people. The cloud of Yahweh was over them by day as they departed from the camp. Whenever the ark set out, Moses would say, "Arise, O Yahweh, and let your enemies be scattered. Let those who hate you flee before you." And when the ark came to rest, he would say, "Return, O Yahweh, to the 10,000 thousands of Israel." The people became as murmurers, speaking evil in the ears of Yahweh, and Yahweh heard. His anger burned, and fire from Yahweh flared at the edges of the camp, consuming those on its outskirts. The people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to Yahweh until the fire sank down and was extinguished. The place was named Taberah, for the fire of Yahweh had kindled among them. Yet the rabble among Israel yielded again to craving, and the sons of Israel wept with them, saying, "Who will give us flesh to eat?" They remembered the food of Egypt, fish eaten freely, cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic, contrasting it with the manna set before them. Their desire dried within them, for nothing appeared to their eyes except the manna. This manna was like coriander seed, shimmering like the appearance of pearl. The people wandered to gather it, grinding it between millstones or crushing it in mortars, cooking it in pots, and shaping it into cakes. Its taste was like fresh pastry made with oil. Each night, when the dew descended upon the camp, the manna fell upon it. Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, each man at the entrance of his tent, and the anger of Yahweh grew exceedingly hot. In Moses' eyes the situation was grievous. He said to Yahweh, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant? Why have I not found favor in your sight, that you should lay the burden of all this people upon me? Did I conceive this people? Did I bring them forth, that you should command me to carry them in my bosom, like a nurse carries a suckling child, bringing them to the land you swore to their fathers? Where will I find flesh to give to all this people? They weep toward me, saying, 'Give us flesh, that we may eat.' I cannot bear all this people alone. Their weight is too heavy. If this is how you deal with me, then please kill me now, if I have found favor in your sight, and let me not see my own ruin." Yahweh answered Moses, commanding him to gather 70 elders of Israel, men known as true elders and overseers of the people, and bring them to the tent of meeting to stand with him there. Yahweh said he would come down and speak with Moses, taking from the spirit that rested upon him and placing it upon the 70 elders, so they might bear the burden of the people with him, and he would not carry it alone. Moses was to tell the people to consecrate themselves for the next day, for Yahweh would give them meat. They had lamented, saying, "Who will give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt," because they rejected Yahweh who was in their midst. He would give them flesh, not for 1 day, nor 2, nor 5, nor 10, nor 20, but for a month, until it would come out of their nostrils and become loathsome to them. Moses questioned how such provision could come. 600,000 men stood before him. Could all the flocks and herds be slaughtered to satisfy them? Could the fish of the sea be gathered for such a multitude? Yahweh replied, "Is the hand of Yahweh shortened? Now you will see whether my word comes to pass for you or not." Moses went out and spoke Yahweh's words to the people. He gathered the 70 elders and stationed them around the tent. Yahweh descended in the cloud and spoke with him, taking from the Spirit upon Moses and placing it upon the 70 elders. When the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, though they did not continue afterward. 2 men, Eldad and Medad, remained in the camp, though they had been registered among the elders. The Spirit also rested upon them, and they prophesied within the camp. A young man ran to Moses and reported it. Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' attendant from his youth, said, "My lord Moses, stop them." But Moses replied, "Are you jealous for my sake? Would that all Yahweh's people were prophets, and that Yahweh would place his Spirit upon them." Then Moses returned to the camp with the elders of Israel. A wind went out from Yahweh and swept quail in from the sea, blowing them down around the camp in every direction, about a day's journey outward, and heaping them nearly 2 cubits deep across the ground. The people rose and gathered quail all that day, all night, and all the next day. Even the least among them gathered 10 homers. They spread them out around the camp to dry. But while the meat was still between their teeth, before it was consumed, the anger of Yahweh burned against the people, and Yahweh struck them with a very great plague. The place was named Kibroth Hattava, the graves of craving, because there they buried the people who had yielded to desire. From Kibroth Hattava they journeyed to Hazeroth, and there they remained. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses concerning the Cushite woman whom he had taken, for indeed he had taken a Cushite woman. They said, "Has Yahweh spoken only through Moses? Has he not also spoken through us?" And Yahweh heard. Now the man Moses was exceedingly humble, more than any human who was on the face of the ground. Suddenly, Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron and to Miriam, "Come out, you 3, to the tent of appointment." So the 3 of them went out. Yahweh descended in the column of cloud, stood at the entrance of the tent and called Aaron and Miriam. The 2 of them came forward. He said, "Hear now my words. If there were a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, would make myself known to him in a vision. In a dream I would speak to him. Not so with my servant Moses. In all my house he is faithful. With him I speak mouth to mouth and plainly, not in riddles, and he beholds the form of Yahweh. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant, against Moses?" The anger of Yahweh burned against them, and he departed. When the cloud lifted from above the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, white as snow. Aaron turned toward Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Aaron said to Moses, "O my Lord, please do not hold against us the sin we have foolishly committed and with which we have sinned. Please do not let her be like a stillborn, whose flesh is half consumed when it comes out of its mother's womb." Moses cried out to Yahweh, saying, "El, please, heal her, please." Yahweh said to Moses, "If her father had spit in her face, would she not be disgraced for 7 days? Let her be shut outside the camp for 7 days, and after that she may be gathered in." So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not journey until Miriam was brought in again. After that, the people set out from Hazeroth and encamped in the wilderness of Paran. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Send some men ahead of you so that they may explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the sons of Israel. From each ancestral tribe you shall send 1 man, every one of them a prince." So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the bidding of Yahweh. All of them were heads among the sons of Israel. These were their names: from the tribe of Reuben, Shammua son of Zakkur; from the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat son of Hori; from the tribe of Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh; from the tribe of Issachar, Igal son of Joseph; from the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea son of Nun; from the tribe of Benjamin, Palti son of Rephu; from the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel son of Sodi; from the tribe of Joseph, namely from the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi son of Susi; from the tribe of Dan, Amiel son of Gamali; from the tribe of Asher, Sether son of Michael; from the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi son of Vophsi; from the tribe of Gad, Guel son of Machi. These were the names of the men whom Moses sent to explore the land, and Moses called Hosea son of Nun Joshua. Moses sent them to explore the land of Canaan and said to them, "Go up by way of the Negeb, and then go up into the hill country. See what the land is like, and the people who dwell in it, whether they are strong or weak, few or many. See also what the land is in which they dwell, whether it is good or bad, and what the cities are like in which they dwell, whether they are open encampments or fortified places. And what is the land itself, whether it is fertile or lean, whether there are trees in it or not. Encourage yourselves and take some of the fruit of the land." Now those days were the days of the first fruits of grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob, toward Libo Hamath. When they went up through the Negeb, they came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan of Egypt. When they came to the Wadi Eshcol, they cut off from there a vine branch with 1 cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between 2 men, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called Wadi Eshcol, because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut from there. After 40 days they returned from exploring the land. They went and came to Moses, to Aaron, and to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel at the wilderness of Paran, at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to the whole congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. They reported to him and said, "We came to the land to which you sent us, and indeed it is gushing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Only the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and exceedingly great. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Amalek dwells in the land of the Negeb. The Hittite, the Hivite, the Jebusite, and the Amorite dwell in the hill country, and the Canaanite dwell by the sea and along the Jordan." Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "We should surely go up and take possession of it, for we are well able to prevail against it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." They brought forth among the sons of Israel an evil report about the land which they had explored, saying, "The land through which we passed to explore it is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it were men of great stature. There we saw the distinguished ones. The sons of Anak are among the distinguished. And we became in our own eyes like grasshoppers, and so we became in their eyes." The whole congregation lifted up their voices and wept that night. All the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The entire congregation said to them, "Oh, that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that we had died in this wilderness. Why is Yahweh bringing us into this land only to fall by the sword? Our wives and little ones will become plunder. Is it not better for us to return to Egypt?" Then they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before the whole assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel. Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their garments. They said to the entire congregation of the sons of Israel, "The land we passed through to explore is an exceedingly good land. If Yahweh delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Yahweh, and do not fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has been removed from them, and Yahweh is with us. Do not fear them." But the whole congregation threatened to stone them. Then the glory of Yahweh appeared at the tent of appointment to all the sons of Israel. Yahweh said to Moses, "How long will this people spurn me? How long will they not believe in me despite all the signs that I have done among them? I will strike them with pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make you into a greater and stronger nation than they." But Moses said to Yahweh, "Then the Egyptians will hear of it. For you brought up this people by your power from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, O Yahweh, are among this people, that you are seen eye to eye, that your cloud stands over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you put this people to death all at once, the nations who have heard of you will say, 'Yahweh was not able to bring this people into the land he swore to give them, so he slaughtered them in the wilderness.'" Moses continued, "So now I pray, let the power of the Lord be great, just as you have declared. Yahweh is slow to anger, abounding in kindness, bearing with iniquity and transgression and sin. Yet he will by no means hold the guilty innocent, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. I pray, forgive the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your kindness, just as you have forgiven them from Egypt until now." Yahweh said, "I have pardoned them according to your word. Yet as I live, and as the whole earth shall be filled with the glory of Yahweh, none of the men who saw my glory and my signs which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, who tested me these 10 times and did not heed my voice, shall see the land that I swore to their fathers. None of those who spurned me shall see it. But my servant Caleb, because he had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land to which he went, and his descendants shall possess it. Since the Amalekites and Canaanites are living in the valleys, Yahweh instructed, 'Tomorrow turn around and journey into the wilderness toward the Sea of Reeds.' Yahweh also said to Moses and to Aaron, 'How long shall I bear with this evil congregation who are grumbling against me? I have heard the complaints of the sons of Israel. Say to them, As I live, declares Yahweh, just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will do to you. In this wilderness, your corpses shall fall, every one of you who was counted in the census, from 20 years old and upward, who have grumbled against me. You shall not come into the land I swore to settle you in, except Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun. But your little ones, whom you said would become plunder, I will bring them in, and they will know the land which you have rejected. But as for you, your corpses shall fall in this wilderness. Your sons shall be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years, and they will bear the burden of your faithlessness until your corpses lie scattered in the wilderness. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you shall bear your iniquities, and you shall know what it means for me to reject you. I, Yahweh, have spoken. Surely I will do this to all this evil congregation who have banded together against me. In this wilderness they shall perish. Here they shall die. The men whom Moses had sent to explore the land, who returned and made the whole congregation grumble by spreading a bad report about the land. Those men who spread the evil report died by a plague before Yahweh. But Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh remained alive among those who had gone to explore the land. When Moses told these things to all the sons of Israel, the people mourned greatly. The next morning, they rose early and went up to the top of the hill country, saying, Here we are. We will go up to the place which Yahweh has promised, for we have sinned. But Moses said, Why are you transgressing the command of Yahweh? This will not succeed. Do not go up, for Yahweh is not among you, and you will be struck down by your enemies. The Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you will fall by the sword. Because you have turned away from Yahweh, Yahweh will not be with you. Yet they dared to go up toward the ridge of the hill country, though neither the ark of the covenant of Yahweh nor Moses moved from within the camp. Then the Amalekites and Canaanites who lived in that hill country came down and attacked them and beat them down all the way to Hormah. In the wilderness, Yahweh spoke again to Moses, instructing him to deliver a message to the sons of Israel. When they enter the land, he is giving them as a dwelling place, and they offer fire offerings, be they ascent offerings, sacrifices for special vows, free will offerings, or offerings at appointed times to present a fragrant aroma to Yahweh from the herd or the flock. They are to bring alongside them the appropriate grain and drink offerings. The one bringing the offering must present 1/10 of an ephah of flour, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine for the drink offering. For a ram, the grain offering is to be 2/10 of an ephah of flour, mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil, and 1/3 of a hin of wine for the drink offering. If the offering is a bull calf, 3/10 of an ephah of flour mixed with 1/2 a hin of oil must be brought, and 1/2 a hin of wine for the libation. This is the established pattern for each animal offered. Whether it is 1 bull, 1 ram, 1 lamb, or 1 goat, each is to be offered with its corresponding grain and drink offerings. This law is not only for the native born among the Israelites, but also for any sojourner dwelling among them. There shall be one law for both, the same instruction and statute for all generations. Yahweh emphasized that the sojourner is to be treated in the same way before him as the native, one Torah, one judgment for all. Again, Yahweh spoke to Moses, When the people come into the land and begin to eat of its bread, they are to lift up a heave offering to Yahweh. From the first batch of coarse meal, a cake is to be raised as a heave offering, just as from the threshing floor. This is to be done throughout their generations. Yahweh also gave instructions for unintentional sins. If the entire congregation errs and fails to keep the commandments Yahweh gave to Moses, whether something from the Torah given that day or in generations afterward, then the whole congregation must offer a young bull as an ascent offering, along with its grain and drink offerings, and a male goat for a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for the whole congregation, and it will be pardoned, since it was done in ignorance. This applies both to the Israelites and to the sojourner among them. If a single person sins unintentionally, They are to bring a year-old female goat as a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement, and it shall be forgiven. Again, one law applies to both the native and the sojourner for unintentional sin. But for the one who acts defiantly, whether native or sojourner, defying Yahweh's word and rejecting his commandment, that soul is to be cut off from among the people, for they have despised the word of Yahweh. Their guilt remains on them. During the wilderness journey, while the sons of Israel were encamped, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath. Those who found him brought him to Moses, to Aaron, and to the congregation. Unsure of what should be done, they held him in custody. Then Yahweh told Moses that the man must be put to death. The entire congregation was to take him outside the camp and stone him. And so they did, just as Yahweh commanded Moses. Following this, Yahweh spoke to Moses again, commanding that the sons of Israel make tassels for the corners of their garments throughout their generations, placing a thread of blue in the tassels. These tassels were to serve as a visual reminder, so that when they saw them, they would remember the commandments of Yahweh and obey them. They were not to follow after their own hearts or eyes, after which they had prostituted themselves. The tassels were to help them remember to be holy to their Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim, he declared, who brought you out from the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. I, Yahweh, am your Elohim. Korah, a Levite from the line of Kohath, rose up in defiance against Moses, aligning himself with Dathan and Abiram from the tribe of Reuben, along with 250 leaders of Israel, men of name and standing, princes of the congregation. They came together and confronted Moses and Aaron with bold accusation. Enough of you! All the congregation is holy, every one of them, and Yahweh is among them. Why then do you lift yourselves above the assembly of Yahweh? When Moses heard this, he fell on his face. Then he said to Korah and all his followers, In the morning, Yahweh will make known who is his and who is holy. He will bring near to himself the one he chooses. Take censers, Korah and all your company, put fire in them, and lay incense upon them before Yahweh. The man whom Yahweh chooses, he shall be the Holy One. You sons of Levi, it is enough. Moses challenged Korah further, questioning whether it was too small a thing that Yahweh had already separated the Levites for sacred service in the tabernacle. He brought you near, Moses said, you and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, and now you seek the priesthood also. Your rebellion is not against Aaron, it is against Yahweh. Moses then summoned Dathan and Abiram, but they refused to come. They accused Moses of bringing them out of a land flowing with milk and honey, only to let them die in the wilderness. You have not brought us into a land of promise, they said. Will you gouge out the eyes of these men too? We will not come. Angered, Moses cried to Yahweh, Do not regard their offering. I have taken nothing from them, not even a donkey, nor have I harmed them. Then he instructed Korah and all his company to present themselves before Yahweh the next day, each with his own censer filled with incense. Aaron was to do the same. The next morning, Korah and the 250 leaders came with their censers, placing fire and incense in them, and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah gathered all the congregation against them there. The glory of Yahweh appeared to the whole assembly, and he spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from this congregation, so that I may consume them in a moment. But Moses and Aaron fell on their faces, pleading, O El, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with the whole congregation? Yahweh responded, instructing Moses to warn the people to move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Moses went with the elders of Israel to confront Dathan and Abiram. He warned the people, "Depart from the tents of these wicked men. Do not touch anything that belongs to them, lest you be swept away in their sins." The people withdrew, and Dathan and Abiram stood at the entrances of their tents with their families. Moses declared, "By this you shall know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works. If these men die a natural death, Yahweh has not sent me. But if Yahweh creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them, and all that belongs to them alive into the grave, then you will know these men have despised Yahweh." As he finished speaking, the ground split open beneath them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them along with their households, all the men of Korah and all their possessions. They descended alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them. All Israel fled in fear, saying, "Lest the earth swallow us also." Then fire came out from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men who had offered incense. Yahweh then instructed Moses to have Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, gather the bronze censers from the fire, because they had become holy through the offering. Eleazar had them hammered into a covering for the altar, as a reminder to Israel that no outsider, not of Aaron's seed, should approach to offer incense before Yahweh, lest he become like Korah and his company. Despite all that had occurred, the next day the entire congregation of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron, accusing them, "You have killed the people of Yahweh." As they gathered in defiance, the cloud covered the tabernacle, and the glory of Yahweh appeared once more. Yahweh said to Moses, "Get away from this congregation, so I may consume them instantly." Again, Moses and Aaron fell on their faces. Moses told Aaron to take his censer, put fire from the altar in it, add incense, and run among the people to make atonement. "Wrath has gone out from Yahweh," he said. "The plague has begun." Aaron did as instructed. He ran into the midst of the assembly where the plague was already striking. He stood between the living and the dead with his censer, and the plague was stopped. But by then, 14,700 had died, in addition to those who perished with Korah. Aaron then returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The plague had been restrained. After the devastation of Korah's rebellion, Yahweh once again sought to establish peace and affirm the order of his choosing among the sons of Israel. He spoke to Moses, commanding him to take a rod from each of the 12 tribes, one for each father's house, and to inscribe the name of the leader on each rod. Among them, the name of Aaron was to be written upon the rod of the tribe of Levi. These 12 rods would serve as testimony, placed in the tent of appointment, before the testimony of Yahweh, where he met with Moses. There, in the holy place, Yahweh declared that he would cause the rod of the man he chose to bud. This sign would silence the complaints of the people, whose grumblings had not ceased even after fire, plague, and the opening earth. Their rebellion had been constant, but now Yahweh would give them undeniable evidence. Moses did just as Yahweh commanded. He took the rods from the tribal leaders, 12 in all, including Aaron's, and placed them before Yahweh in the tent of the testimony. When morning came, Moses entered the sanctuary. There, before the Ark of the Covenant, a sign had been given. The rod of Aaron, the rod of the house of Levi, had budded. More than that, it had blossomed. And more than that still, it had borne ripe almonds. From dry wood came life, buds, flowers, and fruit. Yahweh had chosen. Moses brought all the rods out before the sons of Israel. Each man took back his rod, and all saw what had occurred. The evidence could not be denied. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Place Aaron's rod back before the testimony for safekeeping, as a sign to the sons of rebellion, so that their grumblings against me may cease, and they will not die." Moses obeyed exactly as he had always done. But the people, stricken with awe and fear, cried out to Moses, "Behold, we are dying, we perish, all of us perish. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of Yahweh dies. Shall we all come to an end?" They now knew holiness was no light thing. Yahweh had chosen, and his choice could not be challenged. The almond blossoms of Aaron's rod would remain, a quiet but powerful testimony to Yahweh's authority and mercy. Yahweh spoke directly to Aaron, placing the weight of sacred responsibility upon him, his sons, and his father's house. They were to bear the burden of any iniquity related to the sanctuary, and Aaron and his sons were to bear guilt in matters of the priesthood. The tribe of Levi was set apart to assist them, but not to approach the holy furnishings or the altar, lest both priest and Levite die. The Levites were given to Aaron as a gift, designated by Yahweh himself to serve at the tent of appointment. Though the Levites would guard and serve around the tent, only Aaron and his sons were permitted to handle the altar and minister within the inner veil. This priesthood, Yahweh declared, was his gift to Aaron, exclusive and holy. Any outsider who dared to intrude would be put to death. Then Yahweh affirmed Aaron's portion and provision. All the sacred offerings, the heave offerings, wave offerings, sin offerings, and guilt offerings presented by the Israelites were to be given to the priests. These were not common portions, but holy of holies, to be eaten only by males in the priestly line, in sanctity. Other offerings, such as the wave offerings and first fruits of oil, wine, and grain, could be shared among the priest's household, so long as they were clean. Every firstborn male, both of man and beast, belonged to Yahweh. But the firstborn of unclean animals and of humans were to be redeemed with silver. Clean animals, however, were to be offered wholly, sprinkled with blood, their fat burned on the altar, and their flesh given to the priests. To Aaron and his family, Yahweh gave an eternal covenant of salt. All the lifted gifts of Israel were theirs. But unlike the other tribes, they were to inherit no land. "I am your portion and your allotment," Yahweh declared, setting apart the priests in a unique and intimate dependence upon him. For the Levites, Yahweh assigned all the tithes of Israel. These were to be their inheritance in exchange for their continual service at the tent. The Israelites themselves were not permitted to come near the tent again, lest wrath break out and they perish. Though the Levites received tithes from the people, they too were commanded to lift a tithe from their portion, a tithe of the tithe, as a heave offering to Yahweh. This portion was to be given to Aaron and treated as if it were the grain of the threshing floor or the produce of the winepress. From all the gifts received, the Levites were to set aside the best, the fat of the offering, consecrated for Yahweh. Once the choicest part was offered, the Levites could partake of the remainder with their households, wherever they dwelled, for it was their payment in return for sacred service. But they were warned, they must never treat the sacred as common, never profane the offerings of Yahweh, lest they bear sin and die. Thus, Yahweh established clear roles, responsibilities, and provisions, guarding the sanctity of his presence, honoring the priesthood, and ensuring all who served him were sustained by his hand. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron to establish a permanent law of purification for the people of Israel. He instructed them to take a flawless red heifer, one without blemish and never yoked, and to give it to Eleazar the priest. Outside the camp, the heifer was to be slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar would then take some of the blood and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tent of appointment, symbolically connecting the sacrifice to the sanctuary, even though it took place outside. The entire heifer, its hide, flesh, blood, and dung, was to be burned. Into the flames, cedar wood, hyssop, and crimson-dyed wool were to be thrown, enhancing the symbolic nature of the ritual. Once the burning was completed, both the priest and the one who burned the heifer had to wash their garments and bathe, but they remained unclean until evening. A clean man was then to gather the ashes and store them in a ritually clean place outside the camp. These ashes were to be kept for preparing the waters of impurity, a cleansing mixture used for ritual purification. Though this act made even the one collecting the ashes unclean until evening, the ashes themselves became a vital source of sanctification for the people. This law was particularly concerned with the impurity brought on by contact with the dead. Anyone who touched a corpse, a human bone, a grave, or entered a tent where someone had died would become unclean for 7 days. To be purified, the person needed to be sprinkled with the water of impurity on the 3rd and 7th days. Without this, they remained unclean and would defile the tabernacle of Yahweh, resulting in being cut off from Israel. The ritual involved taking some of the ashes from the red heifer and mixing them with living, that is, flowing water in a vessel. A clean person would then dip hyssop into the water and sprinkle it on everything associated with death, the tent, the vessels inside it, and the people who were exposed. This process, repeated on the 3rd and 7th days, culminated in a full washing and change of clothes, after which the person would be clean by evening. Failure to undergo this purification when required was considered a serious transgression. Not only did it leave the person unclean, but it defiled the sacred space of Yahweh, bringing severe consequences. Even those who helped in the purification process, like the one sprinkling the water, had to wash afterward, and anyone who touched the water became unclean until evening. Thus, the law of the red heifer provided both a mystery and a mercy, a paradoxical ritual where the ashes of a sacrifice made others clean, while making the clean man temporarily unclean. It underscored the seriousness of death's defilement and Yahweh's provision for restoring purity among his people. The people of Israel entered the wilderness of Zin in the 1st month and settled in Kadesh. It was there that Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron, died and was buried. Her passing marked the beginning of a time of great distress for the congregation. Soon after, the people faced a severe lack of water. In their thirst, they assembled against Moses and Aaron and began to quarrel bitterly. They cried out, "Would that we had died when our brothers perished before Yahweh. Why did you bring us into this wilderness to die, both we and our livestock? Why did you lead us out of Egypt just to bring us to this terrible place? It has no grain, no figs, no vines, no pomegranates, and not even water to drink." Moses and Aaron, burdened by the people's complaint, went to the entrance of the tent of appointment and fell on their faces. There, the glory of Yahweh appeared to them. Yahweh spoke to Moses, commanding him to take the rod and gather the assembly. In the sight of the people, he was to speak to the rock, and it would bring forth water. This would provide drink for the people and their animals. Moses took the rod as he was instructed. He and Aaron gathered the assembly before the rock, but instead of speaking to it, Moses spoke to the people in frustration. "Listen now, you rebels, shall we bring water for you out of this rock?" Then he lifted his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod. Abundant water flowed out, and the people and their livestock drank. Yet Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me to sanctify me before the eyes of the sons of Israel, you shall not bring this assembly into the land that I will give them." These were the waters of Meribah, quarreling, where the people contended with Yahweh, and he proved himself holy among them. Afterward, Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. He appealed to him as a brother, recalling Israel's long hardship in Egypt and their deliverance by Yahweh. Moses requested safe passage through Edom's territory, promising not to drink water or disturb vineyards and fields. But Edom refused, threatening to come against them with the sword. Even after Israel offered to pay for any water they used, Edom stood firm. So Israel turned away and did not pass through Edom's land. The entire congregation then journeyed from Kadesh to Mount Hor. There, Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, declaring that Aaron would soon be gathered to his people. Because of their disobedience at the waters of Meribah, Aaron would not enter the land promised to the children of Israel. Yahweh instructed Moses to bring Aaron and his son Eleazar up Mount Hor. There, Moses was to remove Aaron's priestly garments and place them on Eleazar, signifying the transfer of the priesthood. Aaron died on the mountain summit. Moses and Eleazar then descended, and when the people saw that Aaron was gone, the entire house of Israel mourned for him 30 days. Israel's journey through the wilderness continued in hardship and tension. When the Canaanite king of Arad, dwelling in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming by the way of Atharim, he launched an attack. He captured some of the Israelites, taking them as captives. In response, Israel made a vow to Yahweh, saying, "If you indeed deliver this people into our hand, we will devote their cities to destruction." Yahweh listened to Israel's plea, delivered the Canaanites into their hands, and they devoted them and their towns to destruction. The place was named Hormah. From Mount Hor, they journeyed along the route of the Sea of Reeds to skirt the territory of Edom. The way was long and harsh, and the people grew impatient. Once again, they spoke against Elohim and against Moses. "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and our soul loathes this light bread." Then Yahweh sent fiery serpents among the people. The serpents bit them, and many Israelites died. In the face of this terror, the people came to Moses and confessed, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against Yahweh and against you. Pray to Yahweh that he take away the serpents from us." Moses prayed on their behalf. Yahweh instructed Moses to make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and said that anyone who was bitten and looked at it would live. Moses made a bronze serpent and mounted it on a standard. And it happened that if anyone was bitten by a serpent and looked upon the bronze serpent, he lived. Continuing their journey, the Israelites camped in Oboth, then moved on to Abarim in the wilderness near Moab's eastern border. They camped at Wadi Zered, then crossed the Arnon. This river marked the boundary between Moab and the Amorites. As they progressed, they entered territory once captured from Moab by Sihon, king of the Amorites. A record of these events was preserved in the scroll of the Wars of Yahweh. The gushing river at the terminus, the wadis of Arnon, and the slope that stretches to the seat of Ar and leans to the boundary of Moab. From there they traveled to Beer, the place where Yahweh had told Moses to gather the people so he could give them water. At this well, Israel sang, "Spring up, O well, sing to it, a well dug by leaders, hewn by nobles of the people, with the lawgiver's staff and their own staves." They continued on through Matana, Nahaliel, and Bamoth, reaching the ravine in Moab's field, at the summit of Pisgah, overlooking the wastelands. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, requesting safe passage through his land, promising not to touch fields, vineyards, or wells, and to travel only by the king's highway. But Sihon refused and gathered his people for battle. He came against Israel at Jahaz, but Israel defeated him by the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, up to the Ammonite border. Israel captured all the Amorite cities, including Heshbon, which had been Sihon's capital after he had seized it from Moab. A saying was preserved, "Come to Heshbon, let it be rebuilt, let Sion's city be restored." Fire came from Heshbon, flame from the city of Sihon. It devoured Ar of Moab and the heights of the Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! People of Chemosh are undone, their sons and daughters taken by Sihon. Israel then moved further, occupying these territories and striking the Amorites at Jazer, expelling them. As they continued along the route to Bashan, Og king of Bashan came out against them at Edrei with all his people. But Yahweh said to Moses, "Do not fear him, for I have delivered him, his people, and his land into your hand. Do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites." Israel struck down Og, his sons, and all his people. None were left, and they took possession of his land. As the Israelites camped in the plains of Moab, across from Jericho, news of their victories reached the Moabite king, Balak son of Zippor. He saw what Israel had done to the Amorites and became deeply fearful. Moab was terrified by the sheer number and strength of the people. Balak, fearing that Israel would consume everything around them like an ox devours grass, decided to seek supernatural help to resist them. Balak sent messengers to a renowned diviner named Balaam, the son of Beor, who lived in Pethor near the Euphrates. Balak's message was urgent. A vast people had come out of Egypt and now covered the land. He asked Balaam to come and curse them, believing that Balaam's blessings and curses were powerful and effectual. The elders of Moab and Midian came to Balaam with payment in hand. Balaam, however, told them to stay the night, promising to consult Yahweh to see what he would say. That night, Elohim came to Balaam and asked who these men were. Balaam explained their purpose. Elohim told him plainly, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." In the morning, Balaam obeyed and sent the men away, telling them that Yahweh would not allow him to go. But Balak was persistent. He sent more distinguished messengers with promises of honor and reward. Still, Balaam insisted that even if Balak offered him his entire house filled with silver and gold, he could not go against Yahweh's command. He invited the envoys to stay again, saying he would seek further instruction. That night, Elohim told Balaam that since the men had come again, he could go with them, but only on the condition that he would speak only what Elohim instructed. The next morning, Balaam saddled his donkey and set out with the Moabite officials. But Yahweh's anger was kindled because Balaam went. So an angel of Yahweh stood in the road to oppose him. Though Balaam couldn't see the angel, his donkey did. 3 times, the donkey turned aside or stopped in fear of the angel with the drawn sword. Each time, Balaam struck her in frustration. Finally, Yahweh opened the donkey's mouth, and she questioned Balaam about why he was beating her. Balaam, speaking to the donkey as if this were normal, accused her of mocking him and said he would kill her if he could. Then Yahweh opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel standing in the road with sword in hand. Balaam bowed low. The angel rebuked him, explaining that the donkey had saved his life. Had she not turned aside, the angel would have killed Balaam, but let the donkey live. Balaam admitted his fault and offered to turn back if what he had done was wrong. The angel allowed him to continue, but reiterated the command, "Only the word that I speak to you shall you speak." So Balaam resumed his journey with the Moabite princes. Balak came out to meet him at the border and questioned why Balaam had delayed. Balaam replied that he had come, but he could speak only the word Elohim gave him. Together, they traveled to Kiriath Huzoth, where Balak sacrificed animals and shared them with Balaam and the officials. The next morning, Balak took Balaam to the high places of Baal, from which he could see part of the Israelite camp. From this vantage point, he hoped Balaam would be able to curse the people as desired. But the paradox of this prophet's path was only just beginning. Balaam stood beside King Balak on the high places of Moab, with 7 altars built at his command. Upon each altar, a young bull and a ram were offered. As the smoke rose from the sacrifices, Balaam separated himself, ascending to a ridge, seeking to meet Yahweh. He instructed Balak to remain by the offerings, while he went to receive whatever word Elohim would give. There Elohim met Balaam and placed words in his mouth. Balaam returned and stood before Balak and the assembled Moabite leaders, ready to speak. His eyes looked across the vast Israelite camp as he lifted his oracle. "From Aram, Balak summoned me," he began. "From the mountains of the east. He said, 'Come curse Jacob, come denounce Israel.' But how shall I curse whom El has not cursed? How can I denounce whom Yahweh has not denounced?" From the rocky heights, Balaam declared what he saw: a people set apart, dwelling alone, not reckoned among the nations. Their identity was unique, unlike any other. He could not even measure their multitude. "May my death be like theirs," Balaam concluded, "and my end like theirs." Balak's fury rose. "What have you done to me?" he shouted. "I summoned you to curse my enemies, but you have only blessed them." Balaam replied, "Shall I not speak what Yahweh puts in my mouth?" Still hoping to manipulate the outcome, Balak led Balaam to another vantage point, the field of the watchmen on the summit of Pisgah. There again, Balaam commanded 7 altars be built, and 7 bulls and 7 rams offered. Again he withdrew, and again Yahweh met him, placing a second word in his mouth. Balaam returned, and Balak asked, "What has Yahweh said?" Balaam's voice rose, proclaiming, "El is not a man, that he should lie, nor a son of man, that he should regret. Has he spoken, and will he not act? Behold, I was summoned to bless, and he has blessed, I cannot reverse it." No hardship was found in Jacob, no trouble in Israel, for Yahweh their Elohim was with them, and the shout of a king resounded among them. He had brought them out of Egypt with the power of a wild ox. No sorcery or divination could stand against Israel. The world would look upon this nation and say, "What has El done?" Balaam saw a people rising like a lion, not lying down until it devours its prey and drinks the blood of the slain. Balak, now shaken, said, "If you will not curse them, then at least do not bless them." But Balaam answered plainly, "Did I not tell you? All that Yahweh says, I must do." Still desperate, Balak led him to a third location, the summit of Peor, overlooking the wastelands. Again, Balaam asked for 7 altars, 7 bulls, and 7 rams. Again, Balak complied, and again the prophet stood poised to receive the word of the one whose will could not be twisted. On the mountains, Balaam had come to curse, but before Yahweh, even a prophet for hire could speak nothing but truth. The voice of man sought manipulation, but the voice of Elohim declared favor. The people whom he blessed would remain blessed, and no spell, no vantage, and no enemy could change it. When Balaam realized that it pleased Yahweh to bless Israel, he did not go out as he had previously done to seek omens or divination. Instead, he simply turned his face toward the wilderness. As he lifted his eyes and saw Israel encamped by their tribes, the spirit of Elohim came upon him. In that moment, he began to speak under divine influence. He declared himself as the one who hears the sayings of El, the one who sees visions from the Almighty, who falls prostrate with his eyes opened to revelation. Then he gazed upon the order and beauty of Israel's encampments, and marveled aloud, saying how good the tents of Jacob were, how lovely the dwellings of Israel, spread out like fertile valleys, like gardens beside a flowing stream. He compared them to aloes planted by Yahweh, to cedars standing firm beside abundant waters. He spoke of Israel's future abundance. Their water would overflow from full buckets, their seed would be watered richly, and their king would rise higher than Agag with a kingdom lifted up in strength. Balaam continued as the Spirit moved him, proclaiming that El, who brought Israel out of Egypt, gave them the untamed strength of a wild bull. Israel would devour hostile nations, break their bones, and pierce them with arrows. Like a lion, they would crouch in power, lying down in confidence, and none would dare to rouse them. He concluded with the declaration that whoever blesses Israel shall be blessed, and whoever curses Israel shall be cursed. When Balak heard these words, his anger flared. He struck his hands together in fury and rebuked Balaam, accusing him of doing the opposite of what he had been summoned for. Instead of cursing Israel, Balaam had blessed them 3 times, and Balak told him to go home, saying he had intended to honor him richly, but that Yahweh had prevented Balaam from receiving glory. Balaam calmly answered that he had already told Balak's messengers he could not go beyond the word of Yahweh, whether great or small. Even if Balak had offered him the fullness of his house filled with silver and gold, Balaam could not disobey what Yahweh commanded him to speak. Yet before he departed, Balaam offered to reveal what Israel would do to Balak's people in the latter days. Then he lifted up another oracle, identifying himself again as the one whose eyes were opened and who heard the sayings of El and perceived the knowledge of the Most High. Falling in awe with unveiled vision, he proclaimed that he saw one who was coming, not now, but in the future, not near, but destined to arise in the appointed time. He described this coming one as a star rising from Jacob and a scepter emerging from Israel. This ruler would strike down Moab with piercing force and subdue the sons of tumult. Edom and even Seir would become possessions of Israel, for Israel would act valiantly, and a ruler from Jacob would destroy the last of hostile cities. Balaam then looked upon Amalek and pronounced that though Amalek had been first among nations, its end would be utter destruction. Seeing the Kenites, he declared that though their dwelling place was strong and their nest set high among the rocks, they too would eventually be swept away, taken captive by Asher. With a final cry, Balaam asked who could possibly survive when El brings these things to pass. He foresaw ships coming from Kittim that would afflict Asher and Eber, yet those invaders themselves would perish in the end. Having spoken all that Yahweh placed in his mouth, Balaam rose and returned to his own place, while Balak, defeated in his intentions, also went his way. While Israel was staying in Shittim, the people began to engage in sexual immorality with the daughters of Moab. These women invited them to join in the sacrificial feasts to their gods, and Israel accepted. They ate the sacrificial meals and bowed themselves down to the Moabite deities. In doing so, Israel became joined to Baal of Peor, and Yahweh's anger was kindled fiercely against them. Yahweh instructed Moses to take all the chiefs of the people and execute them in broad daylight before him, so that his burning anger might be turned away from Israel. Moses then ordered the judges of Israel to each kill those of their men who had yoked themselves to Baal of Peor. While this judgment was unfolding, an Israelite man boldly came forward, in the sight of Moses and the entire congregation, bringing a Midianite woman into his family tent. This happened while the people were gathered in mourning at the entrance to the tent of appointment. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw what was happening, he rose up from among the assembly. Taking a spear in hand, he followed the Israelite man into the chamber and drove the spear through both of them, the man of Israel and the woman, piercing her through her belly. At that moment, the plague that had struck Israel was halted. Nevertheless, 24,000 people had already died from the plague. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, commending Phinehas, because Phinehas was zealous with the zeal of Yahweh and acted to turn back divine wrath from the people. Yahweh declared that he did not wipe out the entire congregation in his jealousy. For this, he gave Phinehas a covenant of peace. It would be for him and his descendants after him, a covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for his God and made atonement for the sons of Israel. The name of the Israelite man who was killed with the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Salu, a leader from a Simeonite family. The name of the Midianite woman was Cosbi, daughter of Zur, who was the head of a tribal clan in Midian. Yahweh then spoke again to Moses, commanding him to treat the Midianites as enemies and to strike them down. They had acted with deceit against Israel through the incident at Peor, and through the seduction involving Cosbi, their kinswoman, who was killed on the day of the plague that came because of Peor. After the devastating plague had run its course, Yahweh spoke again to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. He commanded them to take a census of the entire congregation of Israel, numbering all the men from 20 years old and upward, those eligible to go out with the army. This was to be done by the families of their fathers' houses. So Moses and Eleazar gathered the people in the plains of Moab, by the Jordan across from Jericho, and began to count them as Yahweh had instructed Moses. The sons of Israel who had come out of Egypt were now to be numbered anew. First came Reuben, Israel's firstborn. His sons formed the families of the Enochites, Paluites, Hezronites, and Carmites. These clans of Reuben totaled 43,730. Among the descendants of Reuben were Eliab's sons, Nemuel, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram were notable because they had led the rebellion against Moses and Aaron, and in doing so, rebelled against Yahweh himself. The earth had opened its mouth and swallowed them, along with Korah, in that judgment when the fire devoured 250 men, making them a warning sign to all. Yet the sons of Korah did not perish. Next was Simeon. His families descended from Nemuel, Jamin, Jachin, Zerah, and Saul, making a total of 22,200 men. Then came the tribe of Gad. From Zephon, Hagi, Shuni, Ozni, Eri, Arod, and Areli came the clans of Gad, numbering 40,500. The sons of Judah included Er and Onan, who had died earlier in the land of Canaan. Judah's remaining lines came through Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Perez had sons named Hezron and Hamul. These families of Judah together totaled 76,500. Issachar's sons were Tola, Puah, Jashub, and Shimron. Their families amounted to 64,300. The tribe of Zebulun was represented by Sered, Elon, and Jaleel, whose clans numbered 60,500. The descendants of Joseph were divided into the tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh's line came through Machir, who was the father of Gilead. From Gilead came several families: Yezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Shemitah, and Hefer. Hefer's son, Zelophehad, had no sons but 5 daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. The clans of Manasseh numbered 52,700. Ephraim's descendants formed the families of Shuthelah, Basher, and Tahan. Shuthelah had a son named Aaron, who also founded a family. After listing the sons of Shuthelah, including the family of Aaron, the count continued with the descendants of Ephraim. Their total number among the clans was 32,500. These were the sons of Joseph, counted by their families. Next came the tribe of Benjamin. His sons were Bela, Ashbel, Ahiram, Shupam, and Huppam, with their respective families. Bela's own sons were Ard and Naaman, forming the families of the Ardites and the Naamites. Altogether, the families of Benjamin amounted to 45,600. The tribe of Dan followed. His only recorded son was Shuham, from whom the Shuhamite family descended. All the families of Dan, traced through the Shuhamites, totaled 64,400. The sons of Asher were listed next: Imnah, Ishvi, and Beriah, and from Beriah came Heber and Malchiel. Additionally, Asher had a daughter named Sarah. These families of Asher numbered 53,400. Naphtali's sons were Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shillem, each giving rise to distinct families. The total count of Naphtali's descendants came to 45,400. All the tribes of Israel together, excluding the Levites, were counted, totaling 601,730 men. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying that the land was to be divided among these according to the number of names in each tribe. The larger the tribe, the larger its portion of land. The smaller the tribe, the smaller its allotment. Yet the inheritance would not be decided by census numbers alone. Each tribe's land would be assigned by lot, in accordance with the names of their ancestral clans. The lot was to govern both large and small alike. The Levites were counted separately, by their families, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. These clans included the Libnites, Hebronites, Mahlites, Mushites, and Korahites. Kohath had fathered Amram, whose wife, Jochebed, herself born to a Levite in Egypt, bore him 3 children, Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. To Aaron were born Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu had died when they offered unauthorized fire before Yahweh. The male Levites, from 1 month old and up, totaled 23,000. They were not included in the main census because they were not given an inheritance of land among the other Israelites. This census was conducted by Moses and Eleazar the priest as they counted the people of Israel on the plains of Moab, along the Jordan across from Jericho. And yet, of all the men counted in this new generation, not one remained from the earlier census taken by Moses and Aaron in the wilderness of Sinai. For Yahweh had sworn that all from that former generation would die in the wilderness, and so it was. Only 2 were left, Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun. The daughters of Zelophehad, Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah came forward. They were descendants of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, from the tribe of Joseph. These women approached Moses, Eleazar the priest, the leaders, and the entire congregation at the entrance to the tent of appointment, and boldly presented their case. "Our father died in the wilderness," they said. "He was not among the rebels who gathered against Yahweh with the company of Korah, but he died because of his own sin and left no sons. Why should our father's name be removed from his clan just because he had no son? Give us an inheritance among our father's relatives." Moses brought their case before Yahweh, and Yahweh responded with clarity. "The daughters of Zelophehad are right in what they say. You shall give them a hereditary holding among their father's relatives, and transfer their father's allotment to them." Then Yahweh gave Moses a law for all Israel. If a man dies and has no son, his inheritance shall pass to his daughter. If he has no daughter, then his inheritance shall go to his brothers. If he has no brothers, it shall be given to his father's brothers. And if his father had no brothers, then the inheritance shall go to the nearest relative in his clan, and he shall possess it. This shall be a statute of judgment for the sons of Israel, as I have commanded. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Go up into the mountain of the Abarim range, and look upon the land that I am giving to the sons of Israel. When you have seen it, you also shall be gathered to your people, just as Aaron your brother was gathered. Because in the wilderness of Zin, during the strife of the congregation, you rebelled against my word, and failed to sanctify me before their eyes at the waters of Meribah." Upon hearing this, Moses turned again to Yahweh and said, "Let Yahweh, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation, one who will go out before them and come in before them, who will lead them out and bring them in, so that Yahweh's people will not be like sheep without a shepherd." And Yahweh answered Moses, "Take Joshua son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, lay your hand upon him, set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, commission him in their sight. You shall bestow some of your authority upon him, so that the entire community of the sons of Israel will listen to him. He shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire for him by the judgment of the Urim before Yahweh. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, he and all the sons of Israel with him. So Moses did just as Yahweh commanded. He took Joshua and brought him before Eleazar the priest and the whole congregation. Then he laid his hands on him and commissioned him, just as Yahweh had spoken through Moses. Yahweh spoke to Moses and gave him clear instructions for the people of Israel regarding his offerings. "Command the sons of Israel," he said, "and say to them, 'My offering, my food for my fire offerings, a pleasing aroma to me, you shall be careful to bring near to me at its appointed time.' Each day, 2 flawless year-old male lambs were to be offered as a regular burnt offering, one in the morning and the other at twilight. With each lamb, a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil, was to accompany it. This daily ascent offering had been ordained at Mount Sinai as a pleasing aroma to Yahweh, a fire offering. With each lamb also came a drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine, poured in the sanctuary as a libation to Yahweh. The second lamb, offered at twilight, was to be presented in the same manner, with its grain and drink offerings, a fire offering and a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. On the Sabbath day, an additional offering was to be made, 2-year-old male lambs without blemish, accompanied by 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering and its appropriate drink offering. This Sabbath offering was to be made every Sabbath, in addition to the regular daily burnt offering. At the beginning of each month, a more substantial offering was to be brought before Yahweh: 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7-year-old male lambs, all flawless. Each young bull was to be offered with a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, the ram with 2/10, and each lamb with 1/10. Along with these came drink offerings: 1/2 a hin of wine for each bull, 1/3 of a hin for the ram, and 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. This monthly burnt offering was to be presented throughout the months of the year. Also, 1 male goat was to be offered as a sin offering to Yahweh, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. On the 14th day of the first month was the Passover to Yahweh. On the 15th day began the Feast of Unleavened Bread, a 7-day festival during which no leavened bread was to be eaten. The first day of the festival was to be a holy convocation, a sacred gathering, and no regular work was to be done. On that day, a special offering was to be brought: 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 flawless male lambs a year old. With them were to be presented grain offerings: 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for each bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. 1 male goat was also to be offered as a sin offering to make atonement for the people. These offerings were to be made daily throughout the 7 days of the festival, in addition to the regular morning burnt offering. On the 7th day of the feast, again there was to be a holy convocation, a day of sacred assembly with no occupational work. Later in the calendar, on the day of the first fruits, during the Feast of Weeks, when a new grain offering was to be brought to Yahweh, a sacred gathering was also to be held, and no laborious work was to be done. On that day, a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7-year-old male lambs without defect was to be offered, along with their grain offerings: 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for each bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each lamb. In addition, 1 male goat was to be offered as a sin offering to make atonement for the people. These were to be offered in addition to the regular burnt offering and its grain offering. All animals offered were to be without blemish, along with their drink offerings. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, The people of Israel were to gather for a sacred assembly, doing no occupational work. It was to be a day marked by the sounding of trumpets. On that day, they were to bring near a burnt offering, a fire offering of a pleasing aroma to Yahweh, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without blemish. With them, they were to offer grain offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. In addition, 1 male goat was to be offered as a sin offering to make atonement. All of these were to be presented alongside the regular monthly and daily burnt offerings, with their respective grain and drink offerings, as prescribed, a fire offering to Yahweh. On the 10th day of the same month, the Day of Atonement, another sacred assembly was to be held. The people were to humble themselves and refrain from all work. On that solemn day, they were to offer 1 bull, 1 ram, and 7 flawless male lambs a year old as a burnt offering, accompanied by grain offerings similar in measure to those of the first day. 1 male goat was also to be presented as a sin offering, in addition to the regular offerings for atonement and the daily offerings with their grain and drink offerings. Then on the 15th day of the 7th month, the Feast of Tabernacles was to begin, a 7-day festival to Yahweh. On the first day, a sacred assembly was to be held, and no occupational work was to be done. The burnt offering for that day was the most extensive: 13 bulls from the herd, 2 rams, and 14 flawless male lambs a year old. With them came the grain offerings of flour mixed with oil, 3/10 for each bull, 2/10 for each ram, and 1/10 for each lamb. A single male goat was to be offered as a sin offering. These were offered in addition to the regular daily burnt offering with its grain and drink offerings. Each day of the feast followed a similar pattern, but with a decreasing number of bulls. On the second day, 12 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. On the third day, 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. On the fourth day, 10 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. On the fifth day, 9 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. On the sixth day, 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. On the seventh day, 7 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and 1 goat. Each of these daily sacrifices was to be presented with the proper grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number and kind of animals. They were always made in addition to the regular burnt offering with its accompanying grain and drink offerings. On the 8th day, the festival concluded with a solemn assembly. No work was to be done, and a final set of offerings was to be made: 1 bull, 1 ram, and 7 flawless male lambs a year old, with their grain and drink offerings as prescribed. 1 male goat was to be offered as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its associated offerings. All of these sacrifices were to be presented to Yahweh at their appointed times, in addition to any vow offerings or voluntary offerings that the people brought, whether burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, or peace offerings. And so Moses spoke all these instructions to the sons of Israel, exactly as Yahweh had commanded him. When Moses gathered the leaders of the tribes of the sons of Israel, he conveyed to them the command that Yahweh had spoken concerning vows and oaths. If a man made a vow to Yahweh or took an oath to bind himself with a solemn pledge, he was not to break his word. Everything that came from his mouth he was bound to carry out. In the case of a young woman still living in her father's house, if she made a vow to Yahweh or bound herself by an oath, and her father heard of it and remained silent, then her vow stood and her binding pledge was valid. But if her father disapproved of the vow on the day he heard of it, then it would not stand, and Yahweh would forgive her because her father had nullified it. If the woman was betrothed or married, and she had made a vow or spoken a binding word upon herself before entering the marriage, and her husband heard of it and said nothing, then the vow would be confirmed. But if her husband disapproved upon hearing it, he could annul the vow, and Yahweh would pardon her. For widows or women who had been divorced, every vow they made and every binding oath they placed upon themselves stood. There was no father or husband to annul them. But for a married woman, if she made a vow or bound herself by an oath in her husband's house, and her husband heard and did not object, then the vow was confirmed. If he said nothing to her day after day, then his silence was considered confirmation, and all her vows and pledges stood. However, if the husband later chose to annul them after having heard them, then he would bear the responsibility for the guilt that followed. Whether it was a vow of affliction or any binding oath, it was in the husband's power to confirm or to annul. These were the statutes that Yahweh gave to Moses, governing the responsibilities between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter during her youth, while she still lived in his household. After Yahweh commanded Moses to take vengeance on the Midianites for leading Israel astray in the matter of Peor, he told him that after carrying out this command, he would be gathered to his people. Moses then ordered the people to send out 1,000 men from each tribe to form a militia force, totaling 12,000, to wage Yahweh's vengeance against Midian. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, was sent with them, carrying the holy articles and trumpets for battle. The Israelites waged war against Midian, as Yahweh had commanded through Moses. They killed every male, including the 5 kings of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, and also Balaam son of Beor, who had played a role in leading Israel into sin. They captured the Midianite women and children, seized all their livestock and possessions, and burned their cities and camps. All the loot, including people and animals, was brought back to Moses, Eleazar, and the whole congregation at the camp on the plains of Moab, near the Jordan River across from Jericho. When the warriors returned, Moses, Eleazar, and the leaders went out to meet them, but Moses was angry with the officers of the army, those in command of the thousands and hundreds. He confronted them, asking why they had allowed the women to live, pointing out that it was the Midianite women, under Balaam's counsel, who had led Israel into sin at Peor and brought a plague upon the people. Moses then gave orders. All male children were to be killed, as well as every woman who had slept with a man. Only the young girls who had not known a man were to be spared. Moses instructed the warriors to remain outside the camp for 7 days and purify themselves and their captives on the 3rd and 7th days. Everything, garments, leather, goat's hair, and wooden items had to be purified. Eleazar then gave further instructions on purifying metal items. Gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead were to be passed through fire and purified, followed by the water of cleansing. Items that couldn't withstand fire were to be purified with water alone. After washing their clothes on the 7th day, they would be clean and could re-enter the camp. Then Yahweh instructed Moses to take a census of all the plunder, people and animals, and to divide it evenly between the warriors who had fought and the rest of the congregation. A tribute was to be taken from the soldiers' portion. 1 out of every 500 of all people and animals was to be given to Yahweh and presented to Eleazar the priest. From the congregation's share, 1 out of every 50 was to be given to the Levites, who were responsible for the tabernacle. Moses and Eleazar followed Yahweh's commands. The total plunder included 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 young women who had not slept with a man. The soldiers' half included 337,500 sheep, from which 675 were given as tribute to Yahweh, 36,000 cattle, from which 72 were given, 30,500 donkeys, from which 61 were given, and 16,000 young women, from which 32 were given. Moses gave the tribute to Eleazar as the offering to Yahweh. The other half, the congregation's share, matched the soldiers: 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. From this, Moses took one of every 50 as commanded and gave it to the Levites in charge of the tabernacle. Afterward, the officers of the army came to Moses and reported that not a single man was missing from their ranks. Out of gratitude, they presented a voluntary offering to Yahweh of gold ornaments, armlets, bracelets, rings, earrings, and pendants to make atonement for their souls. Moses and Eleazar received this gold from the officers, totaling 16,750 shekels, separate from the personal plunder of the soldiers. This gold was brought into the tent of appointment as a memorial for the people of Israel before Yahweh. When the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad saw the lands of Jazer and Gilead, regions rich with pasture, they recognized that it was an ideal place for their large herds of cattle. They approached Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the leaders of the congregation, listing towns like Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eleale, Shebam, Nebo, and Baon. These lands, recently subdued by Yahweh before the congregation of Israel, were perfect for livestock. They asked that this land east of the Jordan be given to them as a permanent possession, so they would not have to cross the Jordan with the rest of the Israelites. Moses challenged their request. He asked, "Shall your brothers go to war while you remain here?" He reminded them of how their fathers discouraged the Israelites at Kadesh Barnea when they refused to enter the land Yahweh had promised. That rebellion provoked Yahweh's anger, leading to a generation condemned to wander and die in the wilderness. Moses warned the Reubenites and Gadites that if they turned back from following Yahweh, they would bring ruin on the people once again. In response, the two tribes clarified their intentions. They proposed building fortified cities for their families and livestock in the land of Gilead, but the men themselves would go, fully armed, ahead of the rest of Israel into Canaan to help subdue it. They pledged not to return to their homes until every Israelite tribe had received its allotted inheritance. They were not seeking to avoid the campaign, but simply wanted to settle east of the Jordan when it was all done. Moses accepted their proposal. He said that if they kept their word, crossing over armed and remaining until Yahweh had subdued his enemies, then they would be guiltless before both Yahweh and Israel. The land they desired would be theirs as a holding. But he also warned them, if they failed to do as they promised, they would be sinning against Yahweh, and their sin would surely find them out. He urged them to build their cities and sheepfolds as they had said, and to follow through with their vow. The sons of Gad and Reuben agreed. They affirmed that their families, cattle, and possessions would stay behind in Gilead, while their warriors would go ahead of the Israelites, just as Moses had instructed. Moses then commanded Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the tribal leaders to ensure this agreement would be upheld. If the Reubenites and Gadites crossed the Jordan armed and fought until the land was subdued, Gilead would be theirs. If not, they would have to settle in Canaan with the rest. The sons of Gad and Reuben reiterated their commitment to Yahweh's word, declaring they would go as instructed. They would fight and cross over armed, but their inheritance would remain on the eastern side of the Jordan. Moses formally granted to the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh the territories once ruled by Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, lands filled with towns and surrounding countryside. The sons of Gad rebuilt several towns, including Dibon, Ataroth, Aroer, Atroth, Shopan, Jazer, Jogbehah, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran, fortified for security and equipped with sheepfolds. The sons of Reuben restored Heshbon, Elealeh, Kiriathaim, Nebo, Baal-meon, though they renamed it, and Sibmah. They gave new names to the cities they rebuilt. Meanwhile, the descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead, seized it, and drove out the Amorites who lived there. Moses gave Gilead to Machir, and he settled there. Jair, another son of Manasseh, took over villages in the region and named them Havoth Jair. Noba went and captured Kenath and its surrounding settlements, renaming it Noba after himself. These are the journeys of the sons of Israel after they went out from the land of Egypt by their militia hosts under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the command of Yahweh, Moses wrote down their stages, documenting each departure point as they progressed from place to place. They began from Ramesses, departing on the 15th day of the first month, the day after the Passover. With a high hand, they went out in full view of all Egypt, even as the Egyptians were burying their firstborn, those whom Yahweh had struck down in judgment upon their Elohim. From Ramesses they encamped at Succoth, then moved on to Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. Turning back, they set out for Pi-hahiroth near Baal-zephon and camped before Migdol. From there they crossed the sea and entered the wilderness, traveling 3 days into the wilderness of Etham before camping at Marah. From Marah they journeyed to Elim, a place of 12 springs and 70 palm trees. After Elim, they camped by the Sea of Weeds, then into the wilderness of Sin, followed by Dophkah, Alush, and Rephidim, where there was no water for the people. Their next stop was the wilderness of Sinai, and from there they moved to Kibroth Hattaavah, then to Hazeroth, Rithmah, Rimmon Perez, Libnah, Rissa, Kehelatha, Mount Sheper, Haradah, Makaloth, Tahath, Terah, Mithkah, Hashmonah, Moseroth, Beni Jaakan, Hor-Haggidgad, Jotbatha, Abranah, and Ezion-Geber. They passed through the wilderness of Zin and came to Paran near Kadesh. From Kadesh they reached Mount Hor, on the border of Edom. It was at Mount Hor that Aaron the priest ascended at the command of Yahweh and died. It was the 40th year since Israel had come out of Egypt, in the 5th month, on the first day. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on that mountain. Meanwhile, the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard of Israel's approach. The people continued their journey, from Mount Hor to Zalmonah, Punon, Oboth, Abarim at the border of Moab, then Dibon-Gad, Almon-Diblathaim, and into the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. From there they camped in the plains of Moab along the Jordan across from Jericho, from Beth-Jesimoth to Abel-Shittim. In the plains of Moab, Yahweh spoke again to Moses, saying, "When you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall drive out all the inhabitants from before you, destroy all their carved images, melt down their idols, and tear down every high place. You shall take possession of the land and live in it, for I have given it to you as an inheritance. You shall distribute the land by lot according to your families. To the larger tribe, give a larger portion, to the smaller, a smaller one. Each shall receive the land where his lot falls, according to the tribes of your ancestors. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants from the land, those whom you allow to remain will become like thorns in your eyes and pricks in your sides. They will harass you in the land where you settle. And what I intended to do to them, I will do to you." Yahweh spoke to Moses and instructed him to command the sons of Israel regarding the land of Canaan, the land that would fall to them as an inheritance. These were the precise boundaries of the land to be divided among them when they entered it. The southern border would begin in the wilderness of Zin, along the edge of Edom. From the eastern end of the Salt Sea, the border would curve southward through the ascent of Akrabim and extend through Zin. It would continue to Kadesh Barnea and move on to Hazar Adar, then toward Asmon. From Asmon, the border would turn toward the Wadi of Egypt and end at the Mediterranean Sea. The western border would be the Great Sea itself, along its entire coastline. This would serve as the western boundary of the land. For the northern border, the line would begin at the Great Sea and extend to Mount Hor. From there, it would reach to Lebo Hamath and Zedad, then continue to Ziphron, and end at Hazar Enan. This would mark the full northern boundary. The eastern border would be drawn from Hazar Enan to Shechem. From Shechem, the line would descend to Riblah on the east side of Ain, then slope down to reach the eastern shore of the Lake of Chinnereth. From there, it would follow the Jordan River southward and end at the Salt Sea. These would be the borders surrounding the entire land to be given as an inheritance. Moses instructed the people of Israel, declaring that this land would be apportioned to 9.5 tribes by lot, as Yahweh had commanded. The tribes of Reuben and Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh had already received their inheritance across the Jordan to the east, in the direction of the sunrise near Jericho. Then Yahweh spoke again to Moses, naming the men who were to oversee the distribution of the land. Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun would lead the allotment process, assisted by one leader from each tribe. The appointed leaders were as follows: from Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh; from Simeon, Samuel son of Ammihud; from Benjamin, Elidad son of Chislon; from Dan, Buki son of Jogli. For the sons of Joseph, from Manasseh, Haniel son of Ephod; and from Ephraim, Kemuel son of Shiptan; from Zebulun, Elizaphan son of Parnak; from Issachar, Paltiel son of Azan; from Asher, Ahihud son of Shalomi; and from Naphtali, Pedahel son of Ammihud. These were the men appointed by Yahweh to oversee the division of the land of Canaan among the tribes of Israel. While the Israelites were encamped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, Yahweh spoke to Moses. He commanded him to instruct the Israelites to give the Levites cities to live in, taken from the tribal inheritances. These cities were not only for their homes, but were also to include common pasture lands around them for their animals and property. The common land was to extend 1,000 cubits from the city wall in every direction, and 2,000 cubits from each of the 4 sides, east, south, west, and north, thus creating space around the cities for their needs. Among the 48 cities to be given to the Levites, 6 were to be designated as cities of refuge. These would serve as sanctuaries for anyone who unintentionally killed another person. They were to provide protection from the avenger of blood, the kinsman redeemer, until the accused could stand trial before the congregation. 3 of these refuge cities were to be placed on each side of the Jordan, 3 in Canaan and 3 in the land east of the Jordan. These cities were not just for the Israelites, but also for the sojourners and guests living among them. Anyone who killed another person unintentionally could flee there and find safety. However, the law made a sharp distinction between unintentional manslaughter and premeditated murder. If a person used an iron tool, a stone, or a wooden instrument capable of killing, and death resulted, it was deemed murder. If hatred or malicious intent was involved, even without a weapon, the killer was to be put to death. The kinsman redeemer had the right to carry out this justice. In contrast, if someone killed another without enmity or intent, such as an accidental fall of a stone, the congregation was to judge the case. If found innocent of murder, the person was to be rescued from the kinsman redeemer and returned to the city of refuge, where they would remain until the death of the high priest. Only then could they safely return to their own land. If they left the city before that, and the avenger found them, the avenger would not be guilty of bloodshed for killing them. These instructions were to be upheld as a legal statute across generations and in all Israelite communities. A person could only be put to death on the basis of testimony from multiple witnesses, never from a single witness. No ransom or payment was allowed to redeem a murderer from a death sentence, nor could one pay to leave a city of refuge early. Yahweh warned them not to defile the land by allowing bloodshed to go unpunished. The shedding of innocent blood polluted the land, and there was no atonement for the land except by the blood of the one who had shed it. Because Yahweh himself dwelled among the Israelites, the land was to remain holy. In the plains of Moab, across the Jordan from Jericho, the patriarchal heads of the clan of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, descendants from the tribe of Joseph, approached Moses and the leaders of Israel. They raised a concern regarding the inheritance given to the daughters of Zelophehad. Yahweh had instructed that Zelophehad's inheritance be given to his daughters, since he had no sons. However, the tribal leaders feared that if these daughters married men from another tribe, their land would be permanently transferred to that tribe. This would reduce the inheritance of their own tribe and alter the tribal boundaries established by Yahweh. They explained that when the year of Jubilee came, all land would return to its ancestral owners, but if the daughter's land had been transferred to another tribe through marriage, it would not return to the tribe of their fathers. Their concern was that this would result in a permanent loss of land and inheritance for the tribe of Manasseh. Moses brought the matter before Yahweh, and Yahweh gave his ruling. The concern of the tribe of Joseph was valid. Therefore, Yahweh commanded that the daughters of Zelophehad could marry whomever they chose, but only within their own tribal clan. In this way, their inheritance would remain within the tribe of their father, and no inheritance would be transferred from one tribe to another. Each Israelite tribe was to remain in possession of its allotted inheritance. This principle was to be applied to all daughters who inherited land. They must marry within their father's tribe, so the inheritance of each tribe would remain fixed and secure. The daughters of Zelophehad, Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, obeyed Yahweh's instruction. They married their cousins within the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, ensuring that their inheritance stayed within the family. Thus, the laws concerning inheritance and tribal boundaries were completed. These were the final commands and rulings Yahweh gave to Moses before Israel entered the land of Canaan. With the boundaries marked, the inheritances secured, and the laws of justice and holiness established, the people of Israel stood still for a moment, on the edge of promise. Behind them lay the long wilderness, the graves of a generation, the fire and the cloud, the rebellion and the mercy. Before them stretched the land that Yahweh had sworn to their fathers. Moses, the servant of Yahweh, would not cross over with them, but his task was not yet complete. Soon he would lift his voice once more to declare the covenant, to remind them of the commandments, and to prepare their hearts for obedience. The God who brought them out of Egypt and through the wilderness would now lead them in, not only into land, but into covenantal life, where faithfulness would mean blessing, and rebellion would mean exile. The journey was not over. The story of Yahweh and his people was still unfolding. And in the days to come, the words of Moses would echo across generations, calling Israel to choose life, that they and their children might live. If you enjoyed the video, Click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends and family. See you in the next video.